from like a sexual perspective, I didn't really have much of a libido. Yeah.
The coil, which is inserted into your uterus, actually releases copper into the body. So that's why it's not called hormonal. However, and this is a big however, it still stops you from ovulating. It still changes your hormonal makeup.
I was scared. And also, other than you, I had no access to anything telling me that it was okay to monitor my cycle as a way of preventing pregnancy. Thing I hear the most from every single person when they're like, what, so you don't even use this? And I'm like, no, because I physically
there's no egg,
will not be getting pregnant. Like, after my fertile phase, I'm good. He was like, oh my God, how this happened? And I was like, how do you mean how this? It's all me. I've got to be the one to take my temperature. I've got to be the one to check in. I've got to be the one to know this. I've got to know this. And that really changed things with us.
Even though, you know, it's not, natural family planning isn't applicable to someone without a period, I'll still ask the partner.
Time is money, so spend yours listening to me talk about things that are important to me and my people.
Time is money.
Welcome to Maya's Minutes with me, Maya. This is the second episode of the first series, Periods, Postpartum and Power. And I would like to introduce you to my good friend, Jaspreet. She's going to be the resident guest for the entire series. She's extremely qualified to speak on such matters. She is a natural family... Why is that so hard to say? Natural family planning teacher.
Very wordy.
Boom. She's a female health enthusiast and she's just an all-round inspiration. If you would like to start from the beginning and listen to the whole series all the way through, there's only one episode that you've missed out on. A little recap of what we discussed is here. I came on and I was just calling my mum. I was like, Mum!
Yeah, I was going to say you screamed.
Yeah, I scream at everything. And also before this, I was so excited to start because I thought that was like a woman thing. I couldn't wait to get boobs and I couldn't wait to start my period. I would always be like, I can't wait. And I'd pretend. As soon as I found out about them, I would always, like, every couple of weeks, I'd be like, I started my period. And my mum would be like, I know you haven't. And I hadn't, obviously. But then when I did, I was like, ah! And then she was like, I just got up, like, woke up. I was sat on the toilet and she saw my knickers and she was like, you just started your period. And she gave me a hug and kissed me.
That's
and I was
such
like,
a nice...
And she said that she did that because when she started hers, she hid hers. She was in bed with her, I think she slept like with her sisters or something. And she, like, there was some, like, leaked in the bed sort of thing. And then someone was like, who did that? Obviously knowing it was her. And then one of her sisters was like, you use these. So there is the previous episode that you can catch up on. And if you want to jump straight into this one, then feel free. You don't have to listen to every single episode of every single series. It will just give you a better understanding if you do. So here we are.
Hello.
Last episode, we spoke a lot about our first interactions or understandings of periods, of sex, of contraception. So we're just going to dig a little deeper, get further underneath that epidermis. I wanted to ask you, well, let's talk about my situation actually and how I was when I first came to you and I was like, you know what, I want to come off the pill, the thing. I wasn't even on the pill. I was on the
patch thing.
No, implant.
Coil.
Implant.
Yeah, okay.
Coil terrifies me. That can never be me. But implant, that's what I was on. And the thing is, I didn't really have a bad time with it.
Yeah, you didn't.
It wasn't the worst, but
it wasn't great.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think it's a shame that we've normalised not great as enough.
Fully.
It's not okay. Yeah. We shouldn't be thinking not great is the standard. Like, I should be feeling good all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously not all the time. I'm going to have my days, but like my health should be in okay.
Subpar, innit?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, not much to ask. I should be all right. So I was finding on the implant that one big thing, which I know sounds strange, but I would need to wee. And if I didn't get it to a toilet in literally 2 seconds, I would actually wet myself. Like on a serious level.
Nuts.
I know. I think that even happened a few times when I saw you. Remember that time we were in our retreat and I was like, I need to go to the toilet. And you're like, well, where are you going to go? And I literally just had to go like in the field. Do you not remember that?
God, yeah. The second
with the
one.
swing, yeah. So that was me. And also I would get really like, from like a sexual perspective, I didn't really have much of a libido.
Yeah.
Which is crazy when I look back, because at the time I felt like I was having sex all the time, but not that I didn't enjoy it, but like it wasn't. Now when I want to have sex, I really want to. Do you know what I mean? And I know that
you can see the clear difference, basically.
Exactly.
There is a difference. And do you know what? That's actually one of the things that... So when you go on hormonal birth control, whatever it is, there's always, you know, like, I'd say like 99% of people are going to experience some kind of side effects, yeah? If you're part of that 1%, well done. Congrats to you. But these side effects can be really brutal. And a lot of the time, we don't actually attribute these side effects to being on hormonal contraceptives. So we don't always attribute those symptoms to being on hormonal contraceptives until we come off. And then you can draw the comparison and be like, oh, but what was different here? Oh, I was on the pill.
I literally felt
coil.
like the fog.
Yeah.
I actually felt clear. Like when I'm sad, I know I'm sad. When I'm upset, I know. When I'm happy,
you know what one of my
happy.
clients said to me?
Yeah.
I found this one so interesting. So she came to me, she messaged me and she was like, told me how she was feeling. And she was like, do I need to come off the pill before we start working together? I was not at all. We can start working together whilst you're still taking hormonal contraceptives. It's fine. And then 2 weeks in, she stopped taking the pill. Yeah, so I'm in this 8-week course. So 2 weeks in, she stopped taking. 4 weeks in, she comes into the session. I'm not joking. She was a new person. She looked physically different. She had a glow. And this was after 2 weeks of not taking it, yeah? She came in and she was buzzing. And she was just like, work's fine. Her life was really stressful for her when she was on the pill, yeah? Really stressful. Work was stressful. Life was stressful. Family was stressful. All of it. Nothing was a stress for her at this point. She's probably ovulating. And she goes to me, I looked at my husband the other day and I was like, he's actually good looking. And I was like, it changed the way that you saw your husband, didn't it? She was like, massively. I didn't think he was good looking for that whole time I was on the pill, and I was taking the pill so that we could have unprotected sex, but I didn't want to. And I was like, so what the pill does, I explained it to her. So what the pill and other hormonal birth control does is it affects your testosterone levels, yeah? And often we think that, oh, women, menstruators, we don't have testosterone, but we have a tiny, tiny little bit. But is there for things like sexual gratification, interest in sex, things like that. And some other things, I'm sure. But when we take hormonal birth control, because that little tiny bit of testosterone we have, the levels get altered, yeah? So that means that our interest in sex is completely gone, which is such a catch-22 because a lot of the time you're taking the pill so that you can have sex as you please, but you just don't want to.
No.
And that's another thing that she found. She was just like, yeah, I'm attracted to him. I want to be intimate with my husband.
Wow.
Crazy, isn't it?
Well, I would also combat that with things I've read about women who met their partner whilst on contraception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it changes who you're attracted to.
And came off.
And then they're like, who's this?
Literally. And I've actually got friends who are scared to come off because they might not want to be with their person anymore.
What I have to say to them, get off the birth control.
Yeah.
If you want to get off of it. No, but yeah, it does, because it affects your hormones so much, yeah? You don't ovulate. Ovulation is not just there for you to get pregnant. It is a marker of good health. It is a hormonal function. It is a function of the body that needs to happen. And when you're not ovulating, you're kind of not yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I feel...
When it's like, you know, when you're taking a pill to suppress it, right? When there's other health conditions, that's not what I'm talking about. And it changes your chemical makeup. And a part of your chemical makeup is what you find nice, what you find bad, and that involves what you find attractive.
I totally feel so much more in control. I'm taking that contraception because I want to be quote unquote in control.
It's such a catch-22.
Now I feel it the most and I've got nothing in me. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, my journey with contraception, and I feel this is important to share because I've been very open about it, and it's actually something that a lot of people on my like platforms always ask me about, because I appear as somebody who like trusts science, and I do. But when it comes to this, I'm very much... But to be fair, like, your body's still science, isn't it? So, like, I am trusting science, but just in a different way.
Also, everyone's body is different.
Yeah. I'm very lucky. Let me just preface this with, I don't have any health complications. I'm in good health, and I have a pretty normal, quote-unquote, cycle, in that I'm fairly regular, and I know pretty much my cycle's going to be from 26 to 28 days long.
Yeah.
That's me. So I'm a good candidate for natural family planning, basically. And I say that because I don't want women listening to this who may have complications to feel attacked by the fact that I'm saying X, Y, and Z. I know that I'm, again, in a position where I'm privileged enough to be able to do this. So that's why I'm doing it, basically. I was hesitant to come off contraception because I have been told my whole life, like we said in the last episode, if you have sex, you're going to get pregnant and die. And I wouldn't want to do that. So I was like, let me protect myself at all costs. Let me make sure that I'm not in any, and I feel like with hormonal contraception, often you go for the one you're like, oh, I'm going to go for the pill, and then you're encouraged to try different ones. There's a micro, there's the Michael Gerger or something. There's this one, there's that one. Then try the implant, then try the coil, blah, blah, blah.
The funny thing with the coil is, you probably heard this as well.
It's not hormonal.
Non-hormonal contraception, because it doesn't, the reason it's technically called that is because it doesn't release hormones into the body, unlike the pill and the rest of them, the implant, they all release hormones. The coil, which is inserted into your uterus, actually releases copper into the body. So that's why it's not called hormonal. However, and this is a big however, it still stops you from ovulating. It still changes your hormonal makeup. That copper still changes your hormonal makeup in the same way that other hormonal contraceptives do. So I always say to people, think about the process of what's going on in the body. It may technically be non-hormonal in medical terms, but it is still changing your hormonal makeup. So just bear that in mind.
Totally. Also, the justifications I would go through, because I really wanted and I knew deep down that I needed to come off contraception, but I was also scared. So I would justify my contraception of the implant by, because it's in your arm, when you take it out, that's it, all the hormones go with it. Okay. So I was like, so then that's not as bad, because I thought the pill was worse somehow, because I'm like absorbing, I don't know what my thinking was, but anyway, all I'm saying is it's completely normal to, if you're like me, which was very much socialized around a time of like not getting pregnant and blah blah blah, prevention being the best thing sort of thing, to be scared. I was scared. And also, other than you, I had no access to anything telling me that it was okay to monitor my cycle as a way of preventing pregnancy. Okay. I remember when I finally was ready and I'd read a book and I'd spoken to you like a million times. I remember even messaging you when you were in labour, because you were like, I was like, I know you got a lot going on, but I haven't actually, I'm not sure if and you were like, obviously through contractions, replying.
Can I just say, I was not like that. I had a great birth.
Yeah, she had a
very
great
relaxed.
birth.
That's why I could respond.
Yeah. When I called up and said I want to get this out my arm, she was like, okay, and what other contraception should we line up for you? Yeah. And I was like, none. And she was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to just observe my cycle, which I wish I hadn't said. Yeah, and I was like, I was really proud. I was like, I'm just going to observe my cycle and do it naturally, because I thought I'd get rewarded for that. And she was like, oh, okay, so you don't mind getting pregnant? And I was like, well, I don't think I will. Okay, but you do know, like, that was how she was talking to me. And I was just like, mate, you don't know me. Do you know what I mean? I'm not being funny, but how do you know that I'm not the most responsible on it person, which I am?
Let me just, it wasn't a personal attack on you.
Well, it sounded it.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, the issue is that with doctors and healthcare providers is they think that natural family planning and fertility awareness is something completely different. They think it's something called the rhythm method. And the rhythm method is really reductive, really limited in its approach to fertility. So that is why she's coming at you like, look, you're going to get pregnant. Like, there's jokes that doctors say like, oh, what do you call someone who uses natural family planning?
Parents.
Pregnant, parents, you know what I mean? Like, that's how they see it. And that is because, sorry to say it, but they are not qualified natural family planning teachers. They are not qualified fertility awareness educators. Like, I had to train to be this teacher, right? They're not trained in that. They're doctors. They're trained in many other incredible things, but they don't understand women's cycles like I do.
And also, they're very clear on, we need to focus on limiting unwanted pregnancies. We need to do things that are going to be 100% accurate and going to do that, which is also funny because contraception isn't always 100%, my friend.
It's not. It's like 96%. Natural family planning is 99.6% under perfect use. I ain't never had a client come back to me in
pregnant.
Like the past 2 years, saying that they got pregnant when they didn't want to. Never.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
how long have I been doing this now? Since like
2020?
2020, 2 years. I've never been pregnant.
There you go.
And I'm loving it. And imagine I was just like, and guess what?
No, but you had a scare.
Oh, mate, have I
and
had
I remember,
a scare.
so she calls me up frantic, and I'm like, what's going on?
No, this is your exact words. What's going on? Are you pregnant? And I was like, I think so. And I literally started crying.
And I was literally like, I'm 99. I remember saying this to you so much. I'm 99% sure you're not pregnant. And I was nervous, laughing on the phone to her. Worst thing to do.
I even thought I wasn't. But then what messed me up so badly? The app, and that I fainted. And my mum's always said, if you faint, it means you're pregnant, because someone said that to her once, probably in a market somewhere.
It's not
so
true.
She now believes that. But that's all I had in my head. And I was like, oh my God. And I literally, it was so bad. Like, it was so, since then I had a scare, by the way, but still.
But that scare was not because you were using natural family planning. She was using the rhythm method because she was using an app. So let's just get that very clear, because natural family planning has a really bad rep. So if you use apps like Clue, Flow, whatever, what one were you using?
It's an
Some next
unknown
one.
one, yeah. Thermometer.
Yeah, thermometer.
Yeah.
FEMometer.
Yeah.
These apps use the rhythm method, which is based on predictions. You cannot predict your fertility in any given month, no matter how regular you think your cycle is. Ovulation can be here and there by 12, 24, 72 hours, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So that is why you observe your signs in real time. So when she called me, she was like, this is what it is. I was like, send me what your app is actually saying, though. She sent me this chart that is diabolical. I don't like, the app is literally having all of you lot, taking all of you lot for a ride, because it's not, it doesn't mean anything what that said. All it said is line, oh, you're pregnant. Like, it didn't make any sense. And I literally said, I don't think you're pregnant, because this chart is all over the show.
And I was in day something like 27 of my cycle. Like, there's
even
no
like there was
way I could have been pregnant at that point. So just to make this very, very clear, because I remember when I was maybe in some of your positions of absolutely knowing nothing, and I would hear terms like luteal ovulation.
Should we talk about the phases?
Yes. Luteal ovulation, cervical mucus, cycle, all of that, and I would have no clue. And that was part of the reason I switched off for so long and was like, yeah, I'm not doing this because this is just long. So let's go through bit by bit in normal English what each means. Do you know what? I'll have a crack.
Go on then.
And then you tell me.
We all know
if
you
I'm
want to
wrong.
be the natural planning teacher.
Clearly. So, because you know why? Because people can understand my position. Do you know what I mean?
And what about me?
Yeah, because you already know it. You've obviously studied it. Whereas I've studied it through books and through you, really. So, you know. Right. Ovulation. The very, very critical thing and time in your cycle where you can get pregnant in that time. It's usually around 8 days, is it? 4 to 6 days. In that time, if you have unprotected sex, there's the likelihood that you're going to, because your insides are ready to scoop.
Ready to scoop what?
The sperm.
Okay, yeah.
That's like, it's ovulation time is like when, if you have unprotected sex in that time, all doors are open. There's nothing closed, which is going to keep that sperm back over there. It's going all the way up to fertilize that egg. So if you have sex in the ovulation time, high chance of getting pregnant.
All right, can I jump in?
Please.
Okay, so what I usually do when I teach the 8-week course is we start from the beginning.
Okay.
Ovulation is a great place to start because that is the most important part. But I'll start from the beginning, which is your period, which everyone knows is like quite a safe place to start. Period, which is the bleed, includes spotting as well, usually between 3 and 7 days. Anywhere between that time is good. We always put ranges on these phases because there is no like one kind of period that is good or like healthy. Lots of different periods, and even between each person, your cycle is going to vary from month to month. It's totally fine. As long as you're not seeing fluctuations of more than like 6 to 8 days per cycle, you're good. So there's 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. The first phase is the period bleed. So when you see that bleed, you have officially started your new cycle. So the first day of the bleed is day 1 of your cycle, and, you know, continues from there. So the bleed includes, like I said before, bleeding and spotting. The second phase is your follicular phase, and this is essentially when your eggs are growing. In really simple terms, that egg that is going to be ovulated is growing inside you. That's it. That is the follicular phase. The third phase that Maya just very beautifully explained is the ovulatory phase. And once you enter this phase, you are in your fertile phase, and this is the only phase in your cycle that you are fertile. So it lasts usually between 4 to 6 days, depending on your age, depending on your circumstances, stress levels, lots of different things. Anywhere between 4 and 6 days is a good thing. When you enter this phase, you're going to know, because you're going to start to see something called cervical fluid. Sometimes it's also called cervical mucus. I don't like the word mucus because it sounds a bit negative, so I use the term cervical fluid. It sounds a bit nicer. Cervical fluid, there's a spectrum of cervical fluid that you're going to be looking out for. You can Google pictures. That's going to be the easiest way for you to know like what you're looking for, and it's not discharge. Discharge is something that is only associated with an infection, so that's something completely different. So go onto Google Images and find pictures of cervical fluid and see if you can start observing that and know what's going on. So that's the first phase, the ovulatory phase. After the ovulatory phase, you come crashing down into your luteal phase, basically. So after ovulation, once that egg has burst through the ovary wall, gone down the fallopian tube and disintegrated, or been fertilized by sperm, you come into your luteal phase. Now, if you are not pregnant, this luteal phase is going to be really stable in length. So if your luteal phase is 12 days, it's going to be 12 days. If it's 13 days, it's going to be 13 days, and then you'll come on your period again. If you get pregnant, you essentially stay in that luteal phase for the entire gestational period. During the luteal phase is like, it's one of my favorite phases to talk about because this is where PMS happens, and PMS is like the most slept on thing. Like, no one talks about PMS.
Can I just stop you there? Luteal phase is a time where you can have unprotected sex because that is just before you're about to start your period again. And the ovulation time, which I spoke about, is, like you said, the time when you're fertile. So after that time, you've finished your ovulation, you're in your luteal phase now, which is the longest phase of your cycle. That's free game. Have your fun.
It is, but you also might. It just depends on the person. Yeah,
obviously, not to say that you have to, but I'm just saying in that time, because the thing I hear the most from every single person when they're like, "What? So you don't even use this?" And I'm like, "No, because I physically
there's no egg
will not be getting pregnant. Like after my fertile phase, I'm good." And people just don't believe me. They're like, "No, but I know a friend whose sister's done this." And blah blah blah.
So the egg literally comes through, bursts through the ovary wall, it's gone. Like I was saying, if it's fertilized during that time, if you had sex during the ovulatory phase and you got pregnant, then that egg's going to come down, come into the endometrium, pop itself in there and keep growing. And if you don't get pregnant, then the egg's going to come down and disintegrate with your period. So the thing with your luteal phase, which is really interesting, is you have a dominance of a hormone called progesterone. Progesterone, like, it's a really easy way to remember it, is progestation. It is there. So if you do get pregnant, it's there to help with your pregnancy. So you are going to have high progesterone levels throughout your whole pregnancy. This is the thing that keeps your body warm, like a little incubator when you're pregnant. Another thing is, in contrast to your ovulatory phase, which is the phase just before that, that is when you're feeling good. That's when, if you have sex, you're going to get pregnant, like Maya said. This is when you are also under the influence of estrogen. And estrogen is what I like to call your rose-tinted glasses, because your tolerance to nonsense is like way up here. Anything goes.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, my son can make all the mess. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. And like my husband can say whatever. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. Live your life. And then I come into my luteal phase and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on?
Suddenly aware.
Yeah, suddenly aware, because that is just the nature of the hormone of progesterone. It makes you want to get organised. It makes you want to declutter. It makes you want to finish unfinished tasks, because you're essentially, during that phase,
nesting.
whether you're pregnant or not, you're nesting. So you're trying to get everything done. So all that stuff that's been neglected during your ovulatory phase, when you're feeling amazing,
running around,
it's a good time to get it done then.
Yeah. How I think of it is, in my ovulation time, I'm never in my house. I'm running around. I'm doing whatever I want, and I have all the energy, and my body, everything in my body is trying to get me pregnant. I'm horny AF. I'm literally like on it. And obviously my body's making it possible. Like, it's put in the environment for me to get pregnant. Like, I'm trying to literally... Anyway, so my luteal phase though, like you say, since I turned like 20, like literally like in the last few years, I've been I'll know I'm coming on, because I will go past dishes in the sink. There'll be like 2, 3, or there'll be a whole sink full. No matter what, I'll be like, I need to do them. Yeah. And I will stay there, even no matter what time it is, and I will wash every single dish until it's sparkling. And that is not me.
No, that's not you. It's not you.
That is not who I am. So that is how I know I'm coming on soon, because that is not who I am.
Yeah. That is the 4 phases.
Okay. So back to me, obviously. What happened with me was, with my scare, we'd had this conversation many times, but I would say I hadn't fully committed. Even when I came off the contraception, I hadn't fully committed, because I was just like...
Because I was asking you questions, you were just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was really... like, the whole process scared me. I was still trying to keep a distance. You know what I was trying to do? I was trying to pathologize it. I was trying to make it a very logical 2+2 thing. Yeah. And it's not that. It is something that requires you to feel your body and feel...
I mean, it can be. It is both. So with natural family planning, we use something called the 3 biological signs. So essentially, with this method of cycle tracking, you're collecting data of your body and you're mapping it out so that you can see at any given day, are you fertile or are you infertile? Yeah. So the first biological sign is your basal body temperature, the second is your cervical fluid, and the third is your cervical positioning. Essentially, with your basal body temperature, cervical fluid, cervical positioning, these 3 things change in response to your changing hormone levels. And that is why it's such a great insight into your body, because at any given time, if you're taking your temperature, you're observing your cervical fluid, even with just those 2 biological signs, you're able to see exactly what's going on. Are you fertile? Are you infertile? Is your cycle healthy? Are you stressed? Have you taken new medication? Is it affecting you? Are you sleeping well? Did you travel? Lots of stuff. You can see it all through your thing. So there is a little bit of both, because this is still a very scientific thing, and I don't want anyone to think that it's not. It's a very scientific thing. It's proven to work as contraception. It's proven to work just, to understand your body. But your experience is also really important as well.
Yeah. Totally agree. That's the best way to describe it. I started off very militantly checking my temperature every day, but then I soon realised that that was going to cause me to have a heart attack because of I would log it in my app and then based on my
pen
temperature.
and paper.
Yeah, she's always said pen and paper is better than an app, always. But then also I've got to make it to a reality that's going to suit me, and I just knew that pen and paper wasn't going to. And an app, I've got my phone on me all the time, and that'll be easier for me. But then as a result of that, I've had to change the way I use the app and what I understand about it. So it's a process of what...
Yeah, you just got to figure out what works.
Exactly. When I first started out, I was every day on the money, taking the temperature and writing it down. Then I realised that that's just absolutely meaningless for the app, because the app isn't taking those temperatures in. It's just taking... The only data it's taking in is when I start and when I finish my period, and then using that to calculate roughly how many days I'm going to be until I'm starting on again.
And do you see why that's dangerous? Because with ovulation, with the phase that Maya described, when you're fertile, that phase differs from month to month. You could ovulate 3 or 4 days later or earlier, depending on what's going on in your life. So that is why the predictions are really bad. That is why I always say pen and paper, because there's no predictions. You're writing it down and you're gonna know.
Yeah, exactly. So started off doing that, thought, oh, I'm smart, I'll just use an app to do all the calculations for me. Got very quickly humbled when I thought when the app basically told me I was pregnant, and I literally physically fainted. There's a video on her Instagram about it. It was horrendous.
I actually can't believe that. It's really sad.
It was horrible. And since then, but then funnily enough, it actually, like I said, it made me more happy and committed to the natural family planning method, because then it just exposed to me, like you kept saying, how bad the whole thing of the app is and how much better the pen and paper is. So then I was like, okay, cool. Family planning hasn't let me down here. The app did. So I carried on using it, understanding now that the app is really all it's doing is just noting when my period is, and just giving me a bit of an indication of, to be fair, what I use it for now is to know what day of the cycle I'm on. That's it. I don't use it for anything else. So bit by bit, it's been really, really good, and I'm really, really happy with it. But the issue that I think a lot of women face is it's going to have to be really, really technical and mathematical, and something that's going to take a lot of time. So what would you say to women who think that?
It takes time to learn the skill. I would only ever advise learning under the guide of a teacher, unlike this one, who decided that she's just going to read a couple of books and have a pregnancy scare. That's fine. Look, I get it. Some people just want the quickness of it. But that is why I've created that 8-week course. Literally at the end of that 8 weeks, to be honest, after 6 weeks, you're going to know how to do this.
Yeah.
I've never had someone after the 6-week course be like, oh, I don't really know how to analyse my chart. You will know, because I literally break it down so simply. In that 6-week course, I also start charting your cycle from week 1. Yeah. So wherever you're at, you start charting it. You start taking your temperature. By week 4, we've got a whole cycle anyway. By week 8, we'll definitely have a cycle, depending on like where we start. So I would always recommend learning from a teacher, because there's just so many things that can happen. You can have pregnancy scares, or in a worst case scenario, you could actually accidentally get pregnant when you don't want to. If
I didn't have you when I had that scare to just reassure me and message me every day, like until I got my period, just being like, how you doing, blah, 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 it's going to be all right, I don't know what honestly. And that's also segue into talking about your partners. So that day when I thought I called my boyfriend, and he was like, oh my God, okay. He's like, just finished work, and he works really near. So he was like, I'll come. Don't worry, I'll come. And when he got there,
he
said,
happy?
No, When he got there, I was so traumatized. Because I'd just woken up and fainted. Yeah, I didn't even have I just had my knickers on and like my pajama top. So the first thing he did was like physically sit me down, because I couldn't even think to sit down. Like I was just standing up, like bruised arm, because I'd fallen over because I fainted.
Was your mum at home?
Yeah, but luckily she was asleep, and like she sleeps through anything, so she didn't have any clue about any of this going on. I was in the middle of my course. It was just not a good time. Do you know what I mean? He'd just come from work, and I think he'd like called his brother on the way to be like, I think she's pregnant.
When was this? 2019?
Yeah, it was in COVID. No, it wasn't 2019. It was 20. When were you?
Was I pregnant?
No, it was after.
I'd given birth.
Yeah.
It was 2020.
Yeah. And it was quite early when I started tracking, as in early into the thing. And he'd called his brother on the way to my house, like, I think she's pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And the brother was just like, she's got to do a test. Like, obviously, like, do you know what I mean? You can always think you are, and then you need to. And he was just like trying to stay, and he stayed so calm. He saw me, he sat me down, he put a blanket on me because I was literally just shaking, just literally like. And then he was just like, look, tell me what's going on. And I was like, no, I couldn't talk. And then he's like, no, go on. What is it? And I was like, so the app, and I got the app out and I showed him. I was like, see here, that means ovulation and that means like, this. What are you on and about? So I done it there because I thought that, and we did it then, and that means that. And then they've just said, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we need to see the app. We need to see the app. And I was like, we can't see the app. And
but
we were literally...
when I asked you, I said to you, look at the reviews on the app for me. And you sent me screenshots. The reviews are terrible. So many people had pregnancy scares.
Yeah. And he literally was like really, really calm. And then I was like, okay, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And then he was like, what are we going to do? He started to freak out because he needed me to get calm. And then he could
let it out.
Yeah,
of course.
literally.
At this point, you thought you were pregnant.
Yes.
You were deep in a pregnancy at this
100%. I was like a couple of weeks gone. I was feeling nauseous. It's not funny. It was horrible. I literally felt nauseous. And
do you know what?
I kept looking down at my belly like, are you in there? I feel
really bad for the way that I reacted because I literally knew you weren't pregnant and I laughed. I really wish I didn't laugh. It was really horrible.
That wouldn't have made any difference to me at the time because I was
you weren't even listening. You
I
just tell me I'm not pregnant.
Yeah, that's what I needed you to do. I just needed you to tell me I'm all right, sort of thing. I was petrified.
You thought you were pregnant. Was abortion a option for you?
No.
Yeah, because we spoke about this last episode.
Yeah.
I'm just intrigued.
Good question. For me, no, because I have very, what's the word?
Just be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just finishing myself on this, aren't I? My perspective on abortion is it's definitely good for a pregnancy that's unwanted. And although at the time, this wasn't what I wanted because it's very inconvenient, it was just inconvenient. I know I want to have a child with my partner. I know I want us to do that together, and I know I want to have kids.
Listen,
so
you're allowed to not want to get an abortion.
Yeah, to me that's enough. And I'm also very traumatized by watching so many of my friends have abortions that for me I've just known that that's not an option in the circumstances that I'm in now. I'm 26. At the time I was 24, maybe 25. Regardless, I see that as old enough. I've made the decision. I'm here. I'm with someone I love. It's going to be a bit inconvenient, but it is what it is. Yeah, that's
you're allowed to feel like that. You're not finishing yourself.
No.
Like, you're allowed to feel, every individual person is allowed to feel how they feel. All I was saying before is like, you can't put that on other people. But yeah, I get it. Like, I get why you would choose.
Because that's what you said to me as well. You said to me, you were like, is that an option for you? And I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, that's why I was freaking out, because I knew if I'm pregnant, I'm having a baby. Yeah. This is it. Yeah. It's not, I'm pregnant.
It's not Maya anymore.
I'm going to be a mother. Oh, wow. Okay. It was literally that. And then it was
how old are you now?
26. Yeah, and I just like, and then so then he started to freak out, and then I was like sitting on my bed just watching him go through what I went through like 20 minutes ago, and then he was just like, you're in the middle of your course, because I was transitioning from PT to tech, and he's like, you're in the middle of your course, you haven't this, you haven't that, we need to do this,
getting really logical about
literally. And he's like, we need to get a place.
Oh my,
we need to get a place, we need to this, we need to that. And then I let him finish, and then he was like, we don't even have our own space, we don't even have a house, we don't even all that. And I let him finish, and then I turned to him and I was like, is it just because of the house? And then he started to get really worried, because he could see that I was actually thinking if we had a house it would be okay. And so he was like, oh my gosh, she's really there. And that was really important, because that opened a conversation between us that I thought was understood, that where we're at now,
it's
if
never
I'm pregnant,
just understood.
Literally, if I'm pregnant, we're having this. He, even though he'd always talk in that way, when it actually came to it,
was already,
who started running? No, he didn't really start, but you know, he was shitting it. And then a couple months later, obviously after I'd got my period and everything was happy days, we spoke about it. And
God,
I
remember
just
that. Like, I feel like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I was so happy.
Jeez. And I spoke about it with him, and I was like, you see what just happened there? You, as I've told you from when we first started this process of me, because it's a joint decision. If I think if you're with a partner and you're going to choose to come off contraception and do something differently,
definitely.
We had that conversation at the time, and I said to you, this, you know, it's a lot on me. So I'm going to need a bit more from you to support me. And he didn't change anything. He was just like, have you got your period yet? Okay, cool. Like that. Okay. That's not enough. So then when we were having this huge breakdown of like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant, that I thought.
Mum and dad.
You literally, he was like, oh my God, how did this happen? And I was like, how do you mean how this? It's all me. I've got to be the one to take my temperature. I've got to be the one to check in. I've got to be the one to know this. I've got to know this. And that really changed things with us. And he took a way more active role.
Do you know what?
That's like so being there. Do you know what I mean?
That's so important. One of the benefits of natural family planning is that it's a joint thing. The contraceptive responsibility doesn't just rely on one person. It is a joint thing, and that is why I always tell boyfriends and partners to come involved, because it's your decision too. 100%. It might be her body, but you better get that thermometer ready every morning. You better write it down. Literally, there are stories that some of my peers have told me, other teachers, where they know people who the woman's lying down in bed and the alarm goes off, the man gets up, pops the thermometer in her mouth while she's still asleep and writes it down, and then he's off.
Yeah, good. That is how it should be. It
is a joint
He's not there yet.
No, but he's good.
Yeah, 100% he's good.
So
and he's
good.
And also, like, I'm at a stage as well now where I feel like I know enough to be not taking my temperature and stuff, where I listen to the other aspects of my body. And also as well, the reality of where we're at is that if I got pregnant, I know what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? So that again alleviates some pressure, which I know for all women isn't always the case. Hence why a lot of women, when I start having this conversation with them and I get judgy and I get preachy, they obviously switch off.
Yeah.
And then obviously they come to the fact as well, well, your relationship is different. And that is true. But I wanted to ask you, what would you say to women who want to come off the hormonal contraception and want to start using this method as their form of contraception, but they're not in a relationship, or they're not having consensual sex with one person? They might be doing
they're sexually active.
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay.
But just make sure, see, the issue with that is that you want to make sure that if you don't know the person that you're having sex with, you know, I don't know the circumstances that someone would have sex, and there's no judgment from me at all. But if you are going to have unprotected sex, the issue of like physical sexually transmitted diseases is the biggest thing. So like condoms are super important in that situation. If you don't want to get pregnant, then just avoiding sex completely during your fertile phase. But always make sure you use a barrier method in that moment. And also just get yourself tested regularly for sexually transmitted diseases.
I always say that to all my friends. Again, I don't really need to say it to my friends because they know, but I would say to anybody who isn't currently my friend, who might be listening, the tests, getting, like, when me and my partner first got together, about maybe like 2 months into a relationship, we both went to clinic together, and we were like, let's get tested and see. Like, obviously nothing came back, but it's good to do, because then we both got peace of mind and you're good. And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There isn't. I think it's really important. Sexual health is health, right? It's not just, you know, it's not some scummy weird thing. Sexual health is health. Get yourself tested regularly. There's nothing wrong with it, especially if you are sexually active. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. What would you say is the best way to get a partner involved? Because I think, again, I only know this because of my relationship with my boyfriend and what I've learnt that he knows or knew before being with me about all of this stuff, which is 0.1%. And now he's up to a good, like, solid
30.
I would say 45.
All right.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
He's so good.
So he knows that much more now.
Yeah.
Because of me. Really. And like even little things like he said, have you seen that ad on Instagram for that period thing you can wear? It's like a
flaxseed pack.
Maybe not I don't think it's flaxseed, but it like it's the same as like that thing you can wear to have pretend
oh my god, yeah, okay.
What are they called?
Contractions.
Why do I keep having a plot with that? Contractions. Pretend contractions.
Because we're talking about contraception.
Yeah, it's just throwing me. Too many words. Yeah, you can wear one of them.
Right.
It doesn't obviously give you contractions, but it gives you like
period pain.
Yeah, it's period help. Anyway,
Simulator.
he sent me that as like just to show me that like that's his targeted ads now, because he's so immersed in the stuff that we
He's good, man.
talk about.
He's good. I don't think he gets enough props.
Oh,
well,
really
this
is your props, babe. I see ya. Yeah, how would you, so for
encourage
me,
partners.
Yeah, my thing of trying to encourage him, at first I was met with a lot of resistance.
Of course.
He was like, what are you talking about?
It's not my
this
problem.
This works. This isn't my problem. What if you get pregnant? Nah, basically. And I was just very much like, in my typical self, I don't care what you say, I'm doing what I want.
Yeah.
And again, wouldn't recommend. But then eventually, he got no choice to get on board. And I do agree. I would say actually that no, your body is your choice. Like, I'm sorry. I think that if I'm taking something that isn't good for me, I need to stop that. Do you know what I mean? And it is on him or your partner to get on board with that. But then you also need to understand, which I did, if I'm doing this and he's not on board yet, then the majority of it is going to fall on me, which it did. So that's something just to bear in mind. I don't think you can turn around and be like, oh my God, it was all on me. But he has made it very clear from everything he's shown you that he's not there yet. And if you're still choosing to do this, then it is going to be all on you. How do you engage partners?
So I always say, if a woman comes to me and she's in like a relationship, she's got a boyfriend or whatever partner, I'm just like, bring that partner along. Like, yeah, but doesn't feel comfortable talking about sex with you. I'm like, okay, like that's fine, but I will talk about sex with him. Like, just bring him. Like, it's not going to be all about sex. Like, we'll eat, you know, the course is structured in a way that eases people into the information. Like, the first session is literally just all about the person, asking you questions, getting them comfortable talking, like centering the person and their partner.
Give me an example of a few questions. I don't want you to give away too much of the course.
No. Like, the questions in the first thing is just like general health questions. So, like, when did you feel best? And name a point in your life that you felt your absolute best.
Oh, that's
and then I'll
nice.
ask him as well, because I'm just like, even though, you know, it's not, natural family planning isn't applicable to someone without a period, I'll still ask the partner. Get them involved. Why not? Because it is a joint decision and the contraceptive responsibility is going to be joint. So really making them, because a lot of the times when it comes to contraception, women are given the responsibility. Yeah, so that means that we always center ourselves in this conversation, but it means that we don't, like you said, you were going to do it anyway, right? So it's just like, I don't care what my husband says, even if, like, do you know what, maybe a couple of conversations and he'll get on board.
No, I could have, yeah, I definitely could have made it in a way where he got on board faster, but I was pissed off that I needed to do that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, why should I? This is my body. The fact that it's upsetting me, you should just be on board, done. Which isn't,
so, you know. It's difficult because, like, it's basically patriarchy, isn't it? And, like, we all internalize patriarchy. Men obviously aren't exempt from that, so they will internalize it and be like, but the pill is the best thing. Natural family planning is nonsense, we're going to go with the pill. And there will be resistance met there, and also because they're not used to being told that, look, contraceptive responsibility is now also going to be yours. So that is a big change for
massive
them.
Change.
And you kind of got to hold their hand. People aren't going to, I don't think people are going to agree with that, because everyone's just like, feminism, like, fuck men. But I genuinely, if you care about men, if you care about your partner, you wouldn't treat them like that. And I don't think that men deserve to be treated like that in that way, because it's just like perpetuating being mean. Yeah. Isn't it?
Do you know what? The other day, this is not linked to that, but it's just something that really stuck with me. The other day, like, we're going for a very stressful time because we're moving into our first place, and it's just like loads of change and transition and all the rest. However, the other day we were having our first night in our new place.
Oh my God.
I know. And I can't remember what I did, but I did something and he just irritated me because I felt like it's obvious. I think it was like using a cloth for something that shouldn't be used. Yeah, something like that. Do you know what I mean? And then I just shut down and I was like, and this is what I do. I just go quiet because I'm so fucking angry. I just don't respond. And then he was like, no, tell me so I can understand you better.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, bless him.
Order, isn't
He
it?
actually wants to know. And if I don't say, how will he know? Like, actually, how will he know?
Silent treatment does not work.
And I was like, oh, and then I said to him later, like, obviously when we got over it, I was just like, I really felt sorry for you there because you actually were exasperated. And you said, tell me so I can understand. Like, I just want to understand. And then that really applies here, because I think so often we do that. Don't get me wrong, a lot of men are trash. I'm sorry. However, the good ones, or the guys that are by our side, who are our partners, who we love, we do need to give them the exception of, look,
men have grown up being told that contraceptive responsibility is not theirs. So then all of a sudden being like, right, you need to know this and you need to know that and you need to, it's not going to help the situation. No matter how you feel, if the end goal is to get your partner on, again, you need to meet him where he is, and you need to do that in a really kind way, especially if it's your partner. Do you know what I mean? We're not talking about like any man. This is your partner and you want him to be involved, and if you want him to be involved, you need to do it in a kind way, make him feel involved, and let him ask all the questions that he needs to, because it's probably very alien for both of you.
Yeah. And how do you get him to come to your sessions?
There's only one man that I have not been able to convince.
Conquered.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
Okay, but how have you conquered the others? Just their partners have just said come and they've come?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if the partner's like, oh, you know, he's a bit wobbly about it. And I'm like, look, he can come in. If after 20 minutes, 5 minutes, half an hour, he wants to leave, he can.
Okay.
There's no pressure. And even if he can't make every single session, he can leave. If he doesn't want his face to be on the camera when we speak on Zoom, he doesn't have to. He can just sit in the background and listen. Things like that. Because it doesn't matter. Like, as long as they come to the session, I don't care.
How has the conversation with your partner been?
Amazing. How
did it start?
I don't actually remember. Pre-baby me, I don't remember.
Was there a pre-baby you?
Yeah, exactly. Is there a version of me who is not a mum? All I remember is that when I was training to be a natural family planning teacher at 8 months pregnant, I was doing like my final assignment in flipping May 2020, deep lockdown, yeah. Doing my final assignment, and he's just sitting next to me, and he's like, oh yeah, I can tell what's going on here. So I'm marking people's charts, trying to see where they ovulated. And by the end of that, he's just like, oh yeah, she's ovulated here, and this is what's happening there, and she's going to come on her period now because the temperature's dropped. And I'm just like, I haven't explained any of this to you, but he's got quite an analytical mind. So he just gets things like that. He's an engineer. But yeah, no, it's been fine. He's such an open person. So I haven't had any struggle in trying to explain any of that stuff to me. He's so open to like new ideas, new things. If anything, he kind of pushed me to do more natural family planning rather than any other form of contraceptive. Yeah. He's so on board.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, I think that's a nice place to end it for now. We're actually giving a rare shout out to men. Very rare.
Massively. The partners, the men that stand by.
No, it is good. Yeah. We need more of that. And I think we should also finish off on some questions.
Coming in.
We've had a lot of questions. Have you got them through? Yeah. So the first one I got, actually, was from someone asking about moon cups. Now, I know you don't use the moon cups, do you?
I don't.
I do. And I'm dying to talk about it.
Of course.
Let me start. Now, I started using moon cups because I've tried every other method and I hated it. So I haven't tried every other method. I've only done pads, always, always pads. Yeah. And then I started reading and learning about how much toxins were in them. And I was like, oh my God, not to mention how bloody expensive they are every month. And especially when your mum stops paying for them, even more expensive. Yeah. So I was just like, yeah, this is long and they shouldn't be as expensive as they are. Didn't like them. Toxins, thought, nah, expense, no. Then I got a reusable pad. Quite okay in terms of like I had a good situation with it and whatever, but very uncomfortable because it is big. It smells because obviously you have it in for age or you wear it for ages. You've got to wash it. That's long. Also expense as well.
Washing it is long as well because you can't just chuck it in the washing machine.
Can't just chuck it in the washing machine. You have to hand wash it. I was doing because I got a tap outside, so I was just pre-washing it outside. And also expense as well. If you don't have access to running water like that a lot, then it's long. So that's long too. I didn't feel comfortable with tampons. So then I went and started using a moon cup. Now it took me a long time. Again, I really wanted to do it, but I just didn't have. I actually took it on holiday because I was like, I'm going to do it, and I researched the best one for me. They usually recommend that if you haven't had a baby, you go for like a small. If you've had a baby, you can go for medium, and if you just know that you need a large, you go for large. But typically, most people go from like small to medium. And I took it on holiday with me to Mexico. Realised that before you use it for the first time, you have to boil it in a pan of water. And obviously I was staying in a hotel and I'm not about to go downstairs and ask them in the Renaissance,
pop this in the kettle?
So I didn't do that, so I didn't end up using it on holiday anyway. However, when I got back, I used it, popped it in. It takes a while to get used to it. I did watch a lot of YouTube videos, spoke to a lot of people, and then there's different methods of folds that you use to like make it into a position where it can actually get up there, and you have to find the best one for you, find the best angle. And I'm on probably like the 8th, 9th month now, maybe even a year. I've been doing it for a minute basically, and in 4 months in, I was a pro. Like I could put it in, take it out easily. And I've recommended it to a lot of my friends, and a lot of people have started using it and had a good experience. For me, the biggest thing is I haven't, since using it, had a leak in my bed.
Okay, brilliant. And was that a thing for you?
Yes. Okay. Every single year. Why is your period
so heavy?
I don't think it's as much heavy as it is as much me being unprepared. And also what would happen with me I would get, especially towards the end of my period, I would not have much blood. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And I'll just put like a panty liner in. And then when I slept that night, I would get like a whole new flurry. Right. So that was it for me, because I wasn't as connected with like what's going on. And also as well, my lifestyle, like I'm busy and I'm tired the majority of the time. Yeah. So to think and to plan and to this and laziness and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, leaks were a biggie for me. What I like as well, I can leave it in there for like 8 hours and be good. That is lovely for me. And then also as well, just getting to know like how much you actually bleed. Like when I take it out, I see how much there is, and it's like, oh my God, in my knickers or or on a pad, that looks like a crime scene.
Yeah.
Here, just pop it in the toilet,
Minor.
done.
Yeah.
And it's just like less waste. Like again,
I think a lot of people have issues with the moon cup, like for the same like internalized shameful reason they have
touching
issues
yourself
with with the tampon.
Yeah, no, the tampon, exactly that. It's the shame thing for me, which is crazy because look what I'm using now, a moon cup. But
so
the tampon,
crazy.
because that was associated to me with like
popping your cherry, your hymen going.
Yeah, which is mad.
Not
Because
being
why does that
virgin
matter
anymore.
now? Why does that
Yeah.
matter? So yeah, that was hopefully an answer to who asked the moon cup question.
Shall I find a question?
Yes, please.
What's a healthy menstrual cycle? I always thought that it was 28 days until you taught me. So this is from one of my old clients. So a healthy menstrual cycle, there's a myth that it has to be 28 days and you ovulate on day 14, which is directly in the middle. It's completely untrue. Any recent research kind of shows that anywhere between 25 to 35 days within that bracket is a healthy cycle. The menstrual cycle is not just, one thing. There is a spectrum of what is considered healthy. So just consider if your cycle falls between that range. And also consider where ovulation falls, which is typically, if I remember correctly, between days 10 and 23. So anywhere between that range could be ovulation. And then
mine's
also,
usually about day 12.
Yeah, mine's 15, 16. And then also your luteal phase, which is the phase after ovulation before your next period. Once ovulation happens, you'll know. And you want to count how long that phase is because it needs to be a minimum of about 10 days. If it's anything less than that, it's basically your body's telling you like something's up with your hormones and you don't have enough progesterone in your body. That means that you're probably under a lot of stress or exhaustion, or you're not nourishing your body properly. If you were to get pregnant in that state, your risk of miscarriage is really high. So that's why there's a lot. I always put a lot of emphasis on the luteal phase because it is really important and it's such a great marker of overall well-being and health.
Nice.
So yeah, that is like there's a spectrum of a healthy menstrual cycle.
And then one last question: if you're cycle tracking and you miss a few days, can you just carry on from there, or should you?
I would say just carry on, and then when you come on your period, just start from day one again. However, if you're using this for contraception, consider yourself fertile.
Yes.
Because if you don't know where you're at, don't have unprotected sex if you don't know where you're at in your cycle.
Good. Okay, cool. Thank you. As always, please like, subscribe, share, send to anybody who might find this useful. Check both of our pages out and give us any feedback. And keep listening. See you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.